we present Beryl Reid, Wilma Ewart, Clement Freud and Derek Nimmo in Just a Minute. And here to tell you about it is the man of the minute, Nicholas Parsons.
Well, I'm surrounded here by bells, buzzers, microphones, pieces of paper, and goodness knows what, and also a list of rules which I will endeavour to explain to you as we come to them. I also have on either side of me 4 brilliant and devastating-looking individuals who will compete against each other. I'm going to give each one of them in turn a most unlikely subject, and then I'm going to ask them to speak for 60 seconds without hesitating, without repeating themselves, and without straying from the subject. If any time during that 60 seconds one of the other competitors wishes to challenge, he may gain a point, but more of that later. So with this thought in mind, keep going, stick to the point, and don't repeat yourself. Wilma, would you talk for 60 seconds, please, on excuses for being late, starting now?
The important thing about excuses for being late is never, never to tell the truth. If one is really in difficulty and caught by the traffic, one should never say so, only that there was an accident and you had to stop to give the kiss of life or something.
Beryl Reid.
Hesitation.
Well, I don't think she hesitated, and I award you a bonus point, Wilma. Continue talking, please, for another 40 seconds on excuses for being late.
Yes, we had a great American author called F. Scott Fitzgerald who was always late. Always late. And he had a million good excuses for that. He, for instance, came in to meet his publisher, who was very important to him, who, directed his whole life.
Clement Freud, you've challenged. On what basis?
Well, I haven't said anything yet. I thought...
You have received your round of applause. You've made your presence felt. Now, seriously, as regards the game, on what do you challenge Wilma Ewart?
Hesitation with just a touch of deviation.
I can't give you any extra points for the touches, but I will give you a point for the deviation, yes. And there are 25 seconds to go, and would you continue talking on excuses for being late, starting now?
There are really a number of immaculate excuses for being late. One of them is for not coming on time. This is invariably the best excuse. You come through the door and you give the kiss of life to your hostess. And you say, "I'm terribly sorry, I am not punctual," or to put it another way, "Forgive me for being late. Here's an excuse." And you then give them a small sweetmeat, otherwise a flower, a parakeet, a bird of...
That delightful cuckoo was Ian... That cuckoo was Ian Messiter, who thought up the game. And, Clement Freud, you have 1 extra point for finishing. Now you will start the ball rolling this time. And I'd like you to speak, please, for 60 seconds on knitting a cable stitch jumper. Starting now.
It's going to be very difficult telling you how to knit a cable stitch jumper. But you will have to bear with me. And I do promise you that any repetition that you're going to get is absolutely necessary to the operation. To knit a cable stitch jumper, you go into a wool shop and you buy wool. You also buy knitting needles, and you then sit in a comfortable position with your feet splayed out about 45 degrees from the main screen.
Wilma Ewart, you have pressed your buzzer. Now, may I ask you, on what do you challenge Clement Freud?
Well, I think it's nonsense. You can't sit splayed out in a knitting shop. I mean...
No doubt you can't, Wilma, but you don't know Clement Freud as well as I do. Clement Freud, I award you a point, because I know you so well. Do continue.
Having engaged...
Derek Nimmo, on what do you challenge?
Hesitation.
I quite agree.
You didn't say go.
Oh.
You didn't
Sure,
say
they play continue. It counts as go, doesn't it? Didn't you say continue?
Well, now you put me in a complete dilemma now. Were you, Sarah, genuinely waiting for
Yes,
that?
I was.
I will have to discount that. I'll have to discount. I'm very sorry, Derek. You have 25 seconds left on which to talk about knitting a cable stitch jumper. Clement Freud, starting now.
You get the wool onto the knitting needle. And you engage it, and you then pearl 1, plane 2, pearl 2, plane 3, pearl 3, plane 1, plane 3.
Derek Nimmo, try again.
Repetition.
Did you say hesitation or repetition?
Repetition.
Oh, what a difficult.
He said pearl 1, pearl 2, pearl 1, pearl 2.
Yes, but I don't know a great deal about knitting, but I thought they were all different stitches. They were all completing a jumper which had to have an end product. It was building to something, wasn't it? No, I think probably I would say that Clement Freud's still with it here, and you still have 15, and you win an extra point, 15 seconds to go with your cable stitch jumper. Going from now.
Now, the cable stitch jumper will eventually be ready. It needs sleeves which have to be tucked onto the main bodice. And after this, you have to sew on buttons, which may not be part of knitting, but are an essential of the cable stitch jumper, which is then ready to be put on.
An extra point for Clement Freud because he finished with the cuckoo. Beryl, would you talk for 60 seconds, please, on the subject of keeping fit, starting now?
Well, I don't hold with that at all. I think it's absolutely awful, keeping fit. It takes up all of your life. I mean, first of all, to start with, keeping...
Derek Nimmo, your challenge.
A deal of hesitation, I thought. Really.
Yes, I think quite a deal. Yes. Derek Nimmo, you have an extra point. And will you continue talking now for 47.5 seconds on the subject of keeping fit?
Cold baths. Cold baths are absolutely essential.
Clement Freud, on what are you challenging?
Repetition.
It's not your day at the moment, is it, Derek? Clement Freud, I award you a point. Would you continue talking about keeping fit? Starting.
He said pearl 1, pearl 2, pearl 1, pearl 2, 6 times. That didn't count. And he said cold baths twice.
You've made your point. It's going home. Clement Freud, would you continue? Keeping fit, starting now. Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
You're absolutely right. Very clever, actually, Derek, because I think you psychologically inhibited him then. And you should have seen the look on his Freudian face. So, Derek, would you please continue with the subject of keeping fit? You have 40 seconds to go, starting now.
Chilled liquid is terribly important for keeping fit. Every morning, I would advise people who are listening to this program to leap into cooled...
Beryl Reid, you're challenged.
Hesitation.
Beryl, you seem to watch Derek's lips because you were challenged on the same basis last time. What were you trying to say, Derek?
I was trying to say...
No, you weren't stuttering. You were fishing for a word.
In the water.
You are just trying to get out. Well, your word wasn't in the water. Your point goes to Beryl Reid. Would you continue? You have just under 30 seconds to talk about keeping fit, Beryl Reid, starting now.
Well, if you have a cold bath, that closes your pores. If you have a hot bath, that opens them. And eventually...
Clement Freud, you're challenging.
Pause.
Well, I think that's so clever, I will give you a bonus point for that. But I cannot take it with the rules of the game away from Beryl Reid, so she will continue talking for 23 seconds on keeping fit.
What you should do, really, is open all the windows in your house, let all the air come in, put your head out, and...
Derek Nimmo!
I was watching her mouth move.
I can't give you a point for watching Beryl Reid's mouth.
And hesitating at the same time.
Well, I've awarded Derek a point on that, so would you continue? We have 12 seconds to go. Keeping fit, Derek, starting now.
Get up at 8 o'clock every morning, run round the park 3 times. Hyde Park preferably. When you get back, do physical jogs, exercise with Indian clubs, run up and down the stairs 3 or 4 times, and then you will find that you've gotten yourself into a brisk sweat. Get into cold water.
Right, now who are we with now? We're with Wilma Ewart, aren't we? Wilma, would you talk to us for 60 seconds, please, on the subject of phrenology, starting now?
Phrenology is a science, as you all know. It began in Polynesia, where it was the custom of the natives to bang their heads together. This was a greeting rather than rubbing noses or shaking hands. So the more bumps on a person's head indicated how friendly he was, how many friends he had. And the natives in Polynesia are splendid at reading one's head to discover if your friends are sincere, warm, or if they're just...
Derek Nimmo, what do you challenge?
It was me, actually. Right. Well, I thought hesitation, really.
You sure that you thought it was hesitation?
Well, I did think it was a...
Well, I think so, too. So I'm
But then I was rather alarmed, because I don't know much about phrenology, you see.
Well,
So I was rather suddenly impressed.
You have 30 seconds, I hear you want a point, 30 seconds on which to continue talking about phrenology, Derek Nimmo.
I think it's very interesting when one walks down the Portobello Road and sees those little heads with the large lumps in all the windows, which are divided up into various partitions for people to read the bumps on heads. I believe if you go to a phrenologist, he has there a head which has been divided out into various sections according to the brain area, some of which say about your sex, whether you're male or female, whether...
The score you may be interested to know is Clement Freud 7, Derek Nimmo's called him up, he has 7, and Wilma Ewart has 4, and Beryl Reid has 3.
Oh, how wrong.
Clement Freud, it is your turn to talk this time for 60 seconds on the English Nanny, starting now.
The English Nanny is a great institution beloved by all English children. Almost the nicest thing about the English Nanny is that she's a tremendous boon to caterers. Every English nanny tells every English child to eat up, not to make a scene, and never ever to query a bill. And for many years, English caterers, helped by English nannies, have been working on this assumption. They give people appalling food, knowing that thanks to the English nanny, people will eat it up. They give them outrageous bills, and thanks to the English nanny, they know that this will never ever be queried. And as English nannies have always said,
Derek Nimmo, you've challenged.
Well, I counted them, 7 English nannies.
So did I.
Repetition.
So you have an extra point, Derek, and you have to continue talking for just over 15 seconds on the English Nanny.
It always gives me great pleasure to go into Hyde Park.
Clement Freud, you've challenged Derek Nimmo on what?
I don't like Derek Nimmo. English nannies are tremendously warm-hearted, generous, kind, white-haired, pram-pushing, beloved, endearing, bespectacled, kind ladies. And they don't like Hyde Park, they like Kensington Gardens.
Right, well, Derek Nimmo gets a point because dislikes him, and also Clement Freud gets a minus point because he went on without permission from the chair. Right, now we continue that with... still 15 seconds to go on the English Nanny. Derek Nimmo, 15 seconds on the English Nanny, please.
When one goes into Hyde Park, one was always pleased to see the number of English nannies pushing their prams towards Kensington Gardens, where, of course, they're always much happier.
You know, it sometimes pays to be at the end of the race at the beginning, because Derek Nimmo was so far back in the first round. You've been all on his side. I think he's way ahead of the field at the moment. Right, we're now continuing, Derek Nimmo. It's your subject this time to start with, and we'd like you to talk for 60 seconds, please, on things to do in the bath. Start here. Starting now.
I had a girlfriend called with whom I...
Beryl Reid, you have challenged Derek Nimmo.
Deviation.
Well, all I can say is that your challenge is very devious.
I don't think you'll find that I'm deviating if you let me continue.
Before we get into very deep and hot water in this bath, I think that I should award that to you, Beryl Reid, to take it out of the hot water that Derek Nimmo's taken. What does the audience think? And the same to you, sir, and I hope you don't come again. Who thinks Beryl Reid deserves a point?
I thought I ought to continue the same.
And who's with Derek Nimmo in his bath? Derek Nimmo, you're back in your bath. having gained a point. So you have 57 seconds to go. Will you continue talking about...
The young friend that I mentioned I used to have my bath with. We used to sit together, and I used to play with her rubber duck. And she used to play with my sponge. Alas, she grew up and went to nursery school, and I never saw her again. Since then, I've often had all sorts of interesting experiences in baths. I have at home a family bath, and I think it's terribly important to have a family bath. I have a wife and 2 children. We have this large bath, which we all gather together in on cold winter evenings. And it's one way of getting to know your family awfully well. I also rather like to shave in the bath, and this is one of my vices, perhaps, whilst bathing. Another vice is to read the newspaper, and I was terribly interested to read in the paper the other day that in Japan...
I think an extra point is... Wonderful image, that, isn't it? Derek Nimmo sitting in his family bath, reading the newspaper and shaving. I must come round sometime, Derek. What is the score at the end of that magnificent round with Derek Nimmo with the audience on his side leading the field? You have 13 points, Derek Nimmo. Very unlucky omen, I would say. Clement Freud is second, so with 7. Wilma Ewart has 4, and Beryl Reid has 3. Beryl.
Still?
Well, Beryl, I think you've got to challenge Derek very easily on that. He was going off about his family bath and not about things to do in the bath, and nobody picked up this point, I thought. Anyway, Beryl, would you like to continue and talk to us for 60 seconds on what to buy at a jumble sale, starting now?
Well, I would start off with a bird cage. I haven't got a bird, but it would be very nice to have one, and so that would be the first thing I would look for. I'd like a pair of step ladders because I'm not very tall and I could see more that's going on if I had a pair of step ladders. I'd also like some ladies' shears with long handles so that I could cut the edge of the grass without bending down. And most of all, I'd like some very thick saucepans.
Wilma Ewart, you have challenged.
Well, I think it's deviation. It's what Beryl Reid would like, really, not what she should buy at a jumble sale.
But this is what I should buy at a jumble sale.
Yes, well, I think I'll give you that, Beryl. Yes, I don't grant the challenge. You have an extra point.
Because you don't know what's at the jumble sale, do
you? You won your point, my love. You don't need to convince me. You have 30 seconds to continue talking about what to buy at a jumble sale.
Yes, I'd like some old china. I'd like one of those jugs and basins like I used to have in digs. And I'd also like a ukulele because I think that would be very useful if I could get the strings for it. But possibly I couldn't pick those up at the jumble sale. I'd have to travel to get those.
Clement Freud, you're challenged.
Deviation, this is what not to buy at a jumble sale.
No, this is...
A very clever and valid point, Clement Freud. You win and you continue for 10 seconds talking about what to buy at a jumble sale.
The best things to buy at a jumble sale are homemade jams, especially if they're made by the kind ladies who stand behind the counters behind the jumble sale. And other good things to get are...
As you are still speaking on the cuckoo, an extra point to Clement Freud. Wilma Ewart, it is your turn. And would you talk to us for 60 seconds on the many uses of bubblegum, starting now?
I had an uncle in Chicago who knew all the secrets.
Beryl Reid.
Deviation.
What do you say to that, Wilma?
Well, he was a bubblegum expert, you see, and I'm sorry I brought him up first, but I thought he was necessary.
I think it sounded like deviation to me, and I'm going to give Beryl an extra point. Beryl, would you continue talking for about 50 seconds on the many uses of bubblegum?
Well, if the door won't stay closed in the bedroom, it's very useful to put the bubblegum between the two things of the door, and it does keep it shut. But you must be very careful not to breathe through it, because a big bubble comes out at the other...
Wilma Ewart, on what have you challenged?
Well, I think there's hesitation there. I think that...
Yes, I thought there was a lot of
she
hesitation.
was so careful not to...
I know nothing about it.
I know. Wilma Ewart, you won a point. Carry on talking. We have 40 seconds to go on the many uses of bubblegum.
Bubblegum, when ironed very flat, with an iced rolling pin. This is important. You must have iced to get bubblegum off things.
Clement Freud.
Repetition.
Why? Explain yourself.
If you have an iced rolling pin, of course you've got to have ice.
All right, I'll give you a point for that. Will you continue talking about the many uses of bubblegum, Clement Freud?
One of the primary uses of bubblegum is to chew it, which is beneficial to your teeth and enhances your general appearance when you go out. Another good use of bubblegum is that you can chew it and blow into it and produce a bubble which breaks, making a certain amount of noise which frightens women and children and tells other people of your impending arrival.
Wilma Ewart. Wilma, you challenged just as the whistle went. Was that a mistake?
You say deviation. I felt that he must be some sort of deviant to want to frighten women and children.
He might be a deviant, but it doesn't make any difference to the deviation. No, I think he was with the subject. He wins that point for finishing on 60 seconds. And Clement Freud, you continue now. Would you talk for 60 seconds on the subject of Chinese restaurants, starting now?
The great thing about Chinese restaurants is they serve Chinese food, which is absolutely unpredictable and unimitable. If you go to an English restaurant, you tend to have the good, twitty lady sitting next to you saying, "Why are we eating roast beef and 2 veg?"
Derek Nimmo.
Deviation. He's talking about English restaurants with roast beef and cold veg.
What do you think?
Drawing an important social parallel.
I don't think you've made your important social parallel firm enough with this audience, and Derek, I award you a point. Would you continue talking about Chinese restaurants? We have 42 seconds to go.
What I like to eat most of all, I suppose, are chop suey, then egg foo young, lobster balls, perhaps pork balls, pancake rolls.
Clement Freud, what you challenge?
Repetition.
And I'm sure that after you put all that down, you would repeat. Clement Freud, you have won a point. Would you continue talking about Chinese restaurants, Clement Freud, from now?
In view of the fact that Chinese dishes are almost unpronounceable, restaurants have menus on which they are numbered. A great...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Dramatic pause.
That wonderful dramatic pause gains a point for Derek Nimmo because it's interpreted here as hesitation. And there are 23 seconds to go, Derek Nimmo. Chinese restaurants.
I also like to eat ha beng, soft noodles, sometimes hard noodles, crispy rolls, and egg foo young.
Clement Freud.
Again.
And again, you win a point. Will you continue talking about Chinese restaurants?
What one has to be most careful about in Chinese restaurants is that as dishes are numbered on the menu, waiters have this terrible
Derek Nimmo.
We've had all this a bit about them being numbered on
You're
the menu.
absolutely right. We did have the numbers on the menu. We had a dramatic pause afterwards, which we failed to get this time. So, Derek Nimmo, you have 3 seconds to go. Would you like to continue talking about Chinese restaurants now?
I do feel that watermelons and chestnuts...
Clement Freud, you challenged. Clement Freud got his buzzer in first. And what are you challenging?
Watermelons are no part of Chinese restaurants.
I quite agree.
It's deviation.
You've got an extra point. I've never seen watermelons at a Chinese restaurant. What do you mean? There's another second to go?
Just 1 second.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We haven't finished yet because Derek Clement... Derek Nimmo, you've challenged on what grounds and who?
Well, he always... Hesitation, because he always speaks so slowly, he's bound to hesitate before he starts.
Well, as I was speaking then, and I was hesitating... I don't quite know who to avoid the point. I think I'll give 1 to both of the girls for that. All right. Anyway, I think that's about all we've got time for. I'll give you the final score. Derek Nimmo went way ahead at the end and has 20 points. Closely pursued by Clement Freud with 15 points. And rather nicely, coming an equal third, we have Wilma Ewart and Beryl Reid.
Chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hatch.
present Clement Freud, Derek Nimmo, Sheila Hancock, and Carol Binstead in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is the man of the minute, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much, and welcome to our studio audience, and hello, listeners. Well, here I am, surrounded by lots of pieces of paper, a stopwatch, and Ian Messiter, who thought of the game, and I have a list of very unlikely subjects, which I'm going to fire at our 4 contestants here, who are going to compete against each other, and endeavour to talk for just a minute on one of these subjects without hesitating, without repeating themselves, and without going off the subject. In other words, sticking to the point, keeping going, and not hesitating. Just to remind you of those very simple rules: no deviation, no hesitation, and no repetition. And let us start straight off. The rest of the game will become apparent as we play it, and I have to adjudicate when someone challenges one of the other 4, and sometimes it's very difficult, as you will see. But let us start with Derek Nimmo. And Derek, I would like you to speak for 60 seconds on the subject of bedrooms, starting now.
I always think that there should be a careful definition of bedrooms. Rooms which beds are kept in, and rooms which you sleep in. Beds seem to me to be the most suitable place for entertaining. I love entertaining when I'm in bed. I think there's nothing nicer than lying in bed and receiving one's friends.
Carol
I think
Binstead.
that's pornographic and unsuitable for the programme.
And on what basis?
I think talking about entertaining in bed is not the sort of thing that should go out on the BBC. Therefore, I in the best interests of our audience, I know I'm interrupting.
Yes, but on what basis of deviation, repetition, or hesitation are you challenging, Carol?
Oh, nothing. It was just moral standards.
Moral standards. Well, as you have such high moral standards, I will warn you 1 bonus point and ask Derek Nimmo to continue talking on entertaining in bed. I'm so sorry, no. The subject was just... He's changed it, hadn't it, to entertaining in bed. Probably the chairman should get a bonus point for that. Anyway, Derek, would you continue talking on bedrooms starting now?
When I entertain in bed, I generally entertain my smaller friends, young children of 4 and 5 years old.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
Indeed.
I thought that was nasty. I mean...
Without going any further into it, Clement, I will award you 1 point and ask you to go on talking now for just 35 seconds on bedrooms. Starting now.
Bedrooms tend...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
Would you like to explain that?
Well,
to
I can imagine nothing more devious than Clement Freud in bed.
Well, as I gave Clement a bonus point before for his devious ideas of you, I will give you a bonus point, but I still think we stay with Clement Freud. Will you continue talking about bedrooms? Starting now.
Bedrooms tend to have 4 walls, a bed, a carpet. The bed has a number of useful things in it, notably me, 2 pillows, 2 sheets.
Sheila Hancock, why do you challenge?
I don't know quite why, but Clement Freud isn't in my bed. So I don't think it's altogether true to say that bedrooms always have him.
I would call that a very devious challenge. Because this is where one, as I said before once, needs the sort of more than the wisdom of Solomon, and I think I'm going to call upon our delightful-looking studio audience to be the judge. Now, do you think I should award a point to Sheila Hancock for that? Clap if you think so. Or do you think the point should go to Clement Freud? You're on the distaff side in this audience. Sheila, you won a point and you continue talking for just over 15 seconds on bedrooms starting now.
Bedrooms can have a 4-poster bed, or a bunk bed, or a divan bed.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
Hesitation. I would have thought repetition, all those beds, too. How'd you get them into one room? Anyway, all right.
I got a big bedroom.
Clement Freud has gained another point, and he continues talking for the last 9 seconds on bedrooms starting now. Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation. You always take such a long time to start.
Derek Nimmo, you've gained a point. We have 8 seconds left. Would you talk on bedrooms starting now?
When my...
On why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
You've gained a point. Now, who can beat this? And from this point on, no one else challenges. You can't go any closer to the starting line than that. There are 5 seconds left. Clement Freud, will you go on talking on bedrooms starting now?
There are counterpanes, under blankets, over blankets, sheets, pillowcases, lovely warm...
Now, that cuckoo, which was played by Ian Messertum on his cuckoo machine here, indicates that 60 seconds is up, and the person talking when the cuckoo goes gains a point. And it was, in this case, Clement Freud, who now has 4 points. Derek Nimmo has 2, Carol Binstead 1, and Sheila Hancock 1. So we're going to ask Sheila to begin this round. And Sheila, I would like you to talk for just a minute on the subject of my life starting now. Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Yes.
Ages before she started.
Yes. All right, Derek, would you continue talking about my life starting now?
Now, may I just ask...
Is it my life or
whose
his
life is it? Is it our life or my life?
I think on this occasion, when you talk about my life, you're talking about your own personal life.
Yes.
So, Derek, would you talk about your personal life starting now?
My life is extraordinarily enjoyable. I wake up every morning in my bed and entertain my friends. They come to see me, bringing me large cups of coffee and cornflakes, and there I sit in my bed.
Carol Binstead, why
That's
did you...
advertising.
What has it got to do with
I'm not
deviation,
advertising my
repetition,
bed.
and hesitation? Nothing at all. Before we
Nothing,
get
really.
too deep into advertising, will you continue, Derek Nimmo, with an extra point?
Sorry, I was just lying in my bed, entertaining my friends and eating my cornflakes. Then I read my newspapers, and then after some little while, my bath water is run for me. I get up and go into the bathroom, and there take a most splendid bath amongst lots of bubbles and play with my rubber duck. And then after a little while, I get out of the bath, towel myself thoroughly, put on my clothes, generally a lovely white silk shirt, a green tie perhaps, and maybe a navy blue suit, and then I set off into the morning, perhaps a foggy
Clement Freud. Why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
Yes, you're quite right. But I want to hear you say them as well. Right, it's a pity because you only had about 6 seconds left. But would you complete these 6 seconds talking about my life, Clement Freud, starting now?
My life began on a Thursday afternoon
Yes,
in
Derek.
April.
I don't want to know about Clement Freud.
I'm afraid I can't give you a point for that. All you've done is given Clement an extra one.
I'm just trying to protect the public, that's all.
Nevertheless, my life began on a Thursday afternoon in April in the year 1948, when...
Sheila
A
Hancock.
lie.
All right, there was 1 second to go. I think the fairest thing to do is to give a point to Sheila Hancock for her challenge, the deviation, and also to Clement because he finished. They've almost finished together. And the score now is Clement is leading with 8, Derek Nimmo has 4, and so Sheila Hancock 4. Carol Binstead has 3, and Carol's going to start this round, and I'd like you to talk for 60 seconds, please, on the subject of horror films beginning now.
I lost one of the most fascinating men in my life through a horror film. I'd never been to a horror film, and I was aged about 18, and I'd been dying for this man to ask me out for ages. He finally asked me out, and I hadn't got the courage to say that I didn't want to go and see the particular film that was on, which was a horror film. So we went. And it started with great rolling of drums, and I was terrified, and everyone in the audience was roaring with laughter except me, who sat shaking in my seat, not daring to show that I was absolutely terrified. Anyway, this film wended its horrific way until halfway through the film, suddenly someone appeared from a trapdoor, and I was so frightened I shrieked and fainted, just completely...
Clement Freud.
Repetition. There would have been many shrieks in the film already.
Oh, no, everybody was laughing except me, and I hadn't shrieked so far.
All right, I'll give you an extra point, Carol. Would you continue talking? You have 24 seconds
Want to
left.
take one of his
horror
away,
films
too.
starting
Anyway,
now.
this completely horrifying moment caused me to pass out.
Derek Nimmo.
Too much horror altogether. She said horror 5 times.
But it was
I
a
didn't
horror
count.
film.
But you used
Audience,
different
do you think
words.
Derek Nimmo should have an extra point for that? Clap if you think so. Carol Binstead? The audience are definitely on the side of the ladies. Right, Carol, would you continue, please? Another 20 seconds.
I
now.
find it very difficult to continue with this story, as I don't really know what happened next as I was unconscious. The next thing I knew was I was in the ladies' cloakroom of the cinema with my boyfriend-to-be, as I'd hoped then, leaning over me in a most concerned way with the lady cloakroom attendant fanning my face.
Sheila Hancock.
Well, my moral standards are coming up now. I don't think we want to know about her sex life in the ladies' lavatory. Really? I mean, we have got to protect the public.
I don't think there's anything particularly sexual about being unconscious.
In the ladies' lavatory.
Well, it depends what is happening.
I will know how he got in, that's right.
I must come in
It's
here.
that pause between when she fainted and didn't know what happened that I'm worried about.
Well, things can happen after you fainted as well. So we'll leave it at that. I'll award a point to Sheila Hancock, and will you continue talking about horror films for the remaining 5 seconds starting now?
Almost any film I've appeared in has been a horror film.
That cuckoo wasn't a comment. It meant that you have won a point because you were talking at the end of the 60 seconds. You will have 6 points, Sheila. Carol has 5. Derek Nimmo has only 4.
I've gone down.
You've actually gone up according to the score, which Ian Messiter beside me is keeping. Carol and Clement Freud still has 8. And we're back with you, Derek. You have a chance to redress the balance. And I'd like you to talk for just a minute, please, on the subject of my worst enemy, starting now.
My worst enemy is fairly newly acquired. His name is Clement Freud. A lot of things I find most unattractive about him, apart actually from his sort of physical appearance, which is peculiarly repellent. But what really antagonises me more than anything is his gloomy voice. This dreadful, dreary note.
Carol.
I think it's human cruelty, this. I don't think it should be allowed.
But on what basis
is human cruelty?
On what basis are you challenging then, Carol?
Human cruelty.
Yes, but that's not one of the rules of the game. Deviation, repetition, or hesitation.
Oh,
They don't apply.
well, deviation.
No, I don't think so. No, he's well stuck on Clement Freud here. Would you, Clement Freud? You have another challenge on top
I
of
thought he was terribly boring.
I'm sorry, but I'm rather governed by the subject.
Yes. And I would say, as speaking from the chair, I would say that Derek Nimmo was not only sticking to the subject, he was not hesitating on the subject, and he was not repeating the subject. So would you continue about your worst enemy, Derek Nimmo?
Another thing which I find particularly unattractive is his clothing. He tends to wear rather nasty, baggy woolen cardigans stained with soup.
Did someone challenge then? Oh, Clement, I didn't hear the buzzer. Yes.
It tends to smacks of repetition.
Tends. Would you explain that more fully, please, for the less intelligent people here, including myself?
I mean, either a man wears rather baggy things, which is a statement.
Yes.
But the repetitive process he tends to means he puts on, takes off, puts on, takes off, which is repetitious.
No, that's your interpretation of tending to. I would have thought tending to is he hadn't quite got into them. And on that basis, I would say that Derek Nimmo has won a point, and I asked you to continue, Derek. There are 25 seconds left. Go on talking about your worst enemy.
One finds not only soup stains on his apparel, one finds all sorts of nasty gastronomic stains. When you see him first thing in the morning, there's all bits of yellow yolk.
Sheila.
Hesitation.
I've got a
Yes, he has a natural
head. Shouldn't make fun of it.
He has a natural. He has a natural hesitancy in his speech sometimes, and I couldn't even get it out then.
Yeah. I mean, you try and say yellow yolk.
Well, I think the only thing to say, Derek, is that if you have this problem with yellow yolk,
Well, I'll
you
say
should
white yolk. I'll stick
you
with
should
white.
steer well clear of yellow yolks, and I will give
And
a point to
Clement
Sheila
Freud.
Hancock and ask you to continue, Sheila. Now, we carry on now, Sheila, with your worst enemy. That's the subject.
Oh.
Starting from now. Derek Nimmo.
Well, I'm sorry. I withdraw everything.
Well,
You see, you rather doubled up on your starting. Sheila Hancock, and I thought you meant start now, and she didn't say anything. Then you buzzed, and then she did something.
well, I was trying to make it clear that talking about, as we were before, my life, the subject is my worst enemy, and it's a personal
Yes, I was.
reference. So, Sheila, would you go on about my worst enemy for the final 10 seconds, starting now?
I find this difficult to talk about because I haven't an enemy in the world. I suppose...
Derek, yes? But she's not talking about her worst enemy, and that's the question. She says she hasn't got one, do you see? She says she's not talking about it. There's deviation.
Well, you then.
I'm sorry. While the audience may be with you, Sheila, you can't have second thoughts. Derek, you win a point. Will you continue, please, on my worst enemy for the last 5 seconds?
His shoes are also peculiarly repellent. They're always stained with fruit
Carol
juice.
Binstead, why are you challenged?
I don't think Clement Freud's that stained. He's talked about Clement Freud being stained at least 4 times, and I don't think he's that stained. It's repetition.
Repetition?
He's talked about stains on his cardigan and stains on his trousers and
Audience,
stains
would
on
you
his
consider
shoes.
that those stains were repetitious? Yes. All right. Do you disagree?
But this is a
I'm sorry,
reason
the
for me not
audience
liking him, Sean.
Yes, well, we haven't had time for long discussion. Carol, actually, it is exactly 60 seconds. You actually were talking as the cuckoo went, so I will give you a point for finishing on the 60 seconds, and Carol a point for her challenge. And the score now is Derek's gone up to 8, and Clement Freud has got 8, Carol has got 6, and Sheila Hancock has got 7. And it is Clement Freud to talk now for 60 seconds, please, on the subject of the art of winning at bingo, starting now.
My friend Derek Nimmo has a number of talents, among which hesitation, deviation,
Carol Binstead.
Deviation, it's nothing to do with winning at bingo.
I think you're quite right. And you win a point and you continue talking about the art of winning at bingo, starting now.
The art of playing bingo and the art of winning at bingo surely must be to be a complete moron. You sit there for about 4 hours at a stretch with your eyes glued to a piece of paper while some nut calls out numbers and in extreme... I think you have to have a particular mentality to win at bingo. I'm happy to say I haven't got that sort of mentality. I've never won at a game of bingo in my life.
Clement Freud.
That's deviation.
Why?
It's how not to win at bingo, not how to win at bingo.
We're simply not talking on the subject of how to win at bingo.
The actual subject is the art of winning at bingo, and on that basis, I agree. Clement Freud, would you get a point and continue talking on the art of winning at bingo, starting now?
The art of winning at bingo is to listen very, very carefully to the people who call out the numbers, to assemble the cards in front of you, and every time a number is called out, to cover such number, if you have it on the card in front of you, with some small item like a piece of paper.
Carol Binstead.
Boring.
It may be boring, but he's sticking to the subject and he gets an extra point. And you have 1 second to continue talking on this subject, Clement, starting now.
39.
I hope the listeners got that witticism from Clement. He just said in 1 second 39. Right, you have got 12 points now, Clement Freud. Derek Nimmo 8, Carol Binstead 7, and Sheila has got 7. The girls are behind. Let us see if they can come up to the front now. And Sheila Hancock, would you talk for just a minute, please, on the subject of Derek Nimmo, starting now?
This is a subject I know a great deal about because I lived with Derek intimately for 6 weeks.
Who challenged?
I'm not challenging.
Who challenged then? Oh, they're all getting very shy.
There was nothing repetitious about it, nothing devious about it. A degree of hesitation, but nothing else.
Well, Sheila, I don't know who challenged, but
You
you
must
will
let me finish. You must.
You have 55 seconds to continue talking about this delightful subject. We're all fascinated. Will you start now?
For the sake of his wife, I will add that I meant during the 6 weeks in which we did the bed-sit girl. Derek is very kinky about yoghurt. Instead of having a coffee break, we used to have a yoghurt break during the bed-sit girl. He's also inclined to be hesitant, devious, very devious. He has a stutter. He's tall, handsome.
Derek Nimmo.
Deviation.
Why?
Well, I'm not tall and handsome.
Now, this is one occasion when I have to bring the audience in.
No, don't. No, I withdraw that.
It's too late.
No, I withdraw
You've withdrawn 3 times, and you're not withdrawing this time. Do you consider that Derek Nimmo is tall and handsome? If so, clap.
Now let's
Do
hear
you
the men.
consider that he's short and unattractive?
I win.
All right, Derek, I'll let you be the judge. Have you got a point or not?
I've got a point, yes.
You've got a point, so you are tall and handsome. Well done.
No.
That was what you were challenging on. You were challenging on the negative. All right, well, I'll give you a point for that. And Sheila continues talking about Derek Nimmo, starting now.
He's just had a baby.
Carol Binstead.
Impossibility.
With Derek, anything.
That's deviation.
Deviation, I give you a point. Clement Freud, you have something...
Repetition, he's already had 2 babies.
The first item on the show was kinky, but I think we're going a little bit further into the realms of fantasy. Anyway, who won points here, mister? Would you tell me now who won points up to this particular point then?
Derek had to win the last point because it wasn't kinky. Clement 12, Derek 10, Carol 8, Sheila 8.
But we've still got some time to go on this particular subject of Derek Nimmo. But who's talking still on it? Sheila Hancock?
I have a word.
All right, Derek Nimmo, would you continue talking on the subject of Derek Nimmo for 33 minutes starting now?
Every morning when Derek Nimmo lies in bed, he waits for his coffee to be brought in and his cornflakes, and then he goes to his bath, where he plays with...
Repetition of a previous answer.
All right, I'll give you a point for that. Would you like to talk about Derek Nimmo now, starting now?
As I hadn't met Derek Nimmo before today, I'm not really an authority on Derek Nimmo. I think that he is tall and quite attractive, really. I think he's maligning himself.
Clement Freud.
Deviation, we've already proved that he's small and ugly.
Another point to Clement Freud, and would you continue talking, Clement, about Derek Nimmo for the last 17 seconds, starting now?
Small, ugly Derek Nimmo, who has brown hair and 2 hands, both sporting 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, sits opposite me with a lot of cream-coloured shirt showing cheap cufflinks which are flashing.
And that was the whistle. Who buzzed, incidentally?
I did, actually.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Well, they're not cheap cufflinks. They're just nice cufflinks.
Comparatively cheap cufflinks.
Well, we can only take your word for that, Derek. I'm afraid I can't award you a point because we haven't got time to have them valued by anybody in the audience. So Clement Freud actually was talking as the cuckoo went. He wins another point, and the score on that is to Clement Freud now 15, Derek Nimmo 10, and the 2 girls have both got 8.
Oh.
Carol, I'd like you to talk for 60 seconds, please, on the subject of gas, starting now.
The gas board in Britain is probably the most inefficient organisation going. I had a gas cooker installed last week. I walked into the house 2 hours after it had been installed, and the house was full of gas. So I rang the gas board. As I was ringing them...
Clement Freud.
Deviation, that wasn't inefficiency, that was deliberate.
As I think a lot of people have experience with the gas board, we will grant you a point. Clement, and would you continue talking about gas, starting now?
I think gas is by far the best means of cooking because it's faster than electricity and altogether an excellent and clean medium. This is not a commercial for the Gas Council, of whom I'm particularly fond because they've been very nice to me on a number of occasions. In the very near future, I'm cooking with gas in Belfast, and I hope many of you who live in Belfast will come and see me cook with gas in Belfast.
Carol.
Self-advertisement.
But what's you must say, is it challenging on deviation, hesitation, or repetition?
Oh, well, I think deviation. It's not really about gas. It's about Clement Freud cooking.
I quite agree, and you win a point, but we must be precise. All right. And you continue talking about gas for 25 seconds, starting now.
I shall continue with my story about how the gas men turned up at the door.
Sheila Hancock.
Repetition.
Yes, I quite agree. Will you continue talking about gas, Sheila Hancock, starting now?
Gas isn't a very uncomfortable thing to suffer from. You get it round your heart. There are certain things that you can take to cure it. I can't mention them because they're advertising, but they're very efficient. I can't tell you exactly the process that happens, but...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Yes, yes, Will you continue talking about gas, Derek Nimmo, starting now?
Deep sea gas I find to be particularly interesting. Oh. Sorry, I thought that was a comment, actually. Yeah.
Well, the cooker went as you were talking, sir. 60 seconds up, you win a point, Derek Nimmo. Well, there I'm afraid we must leave it. Just a minute, it must be off there in just a minute. I've just time to say that the victory in this programme went to Clement Freud, closely followed by Derek Nimmo, and a little way behind was Sheila Hancock, and then Carol Binstead. And this is Nicholas Parsons saying goodbye.
show in just a minute was Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hatch.
We present Clement Freud, Derek Nimmo, Prunella Scales and Andree Melly in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is the man of the minute, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much indeed, and welcome once again to Just a Minute. And once more, I have on either side of me very talented, attractive, intelligent, erudite people who are going to compete against each other by talking for just a minute on a rather unlikely subject that I will suddenly present to them without deviation, without hesitation, and without repetition. In other words, they must keep going, they must stick to the point, and they must never stray from the subject. Beside me is Ian Messiter, who thought of the game. He has a stopwatch and a hooter, and he will blow his hooter now. That denotes that someone has spoken for 60 seconds and the time is up. People can gain points by challenging. This will become obvious as we play the game. So let us start straight off this week with Andree Melly. And would you like to try and talk for just a minute, Andree, on the subject of brownies, starting now?
I joined the brownies when I was about 7. I started as a common or garden pixie, but was soon promoted to being sixer of the pixies, which is kind of head girl, there being 6 pixies per patrol. The other patrols in our particular brownie pack were the elves and the sprites. We spent a lot of time running round a large paper-mâché toadstool.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Well, the hesitation... I'm so sorry, it's gone on a minute. The hesitation and deviation.
We realise you were buzzing.
I don't like toadstools very much.
On what basis do you challenge?
On deviation. Because there are no such things as toadstools.
Yes.
A toadstool is a paper-mâché toadstool.
Well done, Andree. You gained your point, because I don't think it was so... Would you continue talking, Andree, on the brownies, starting now?
We used to run round this toadstool, singing out...
Derek Nimmo.
It's repetitious, all this running round and round. You
She
get
has
dizzy
run
apart
round
from
the
anything else.
toadstool for more than once, I agree. So we'll give you a point, because you almost won a point last time. Derek, would you now like to talk about brownies? A very apt subject, I'm sure. Starting now.
I, last week, went to the brownies, and I sat on a little chair by the toadstool and watched my small daughter being inaugurated, if that's the word, as a little brownie. She was an elf, actually, in fact, and there were only 3 in her 6.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Repetition, actually, in fact. It's only 60 seconds. I mean, one ought to be able to manage 60 seconds without actually, in fact. Oh, it's bad enough. It was sickening listening to the little chair and the little girl and the little cat.
My daughter.
All right, Clement, you have a point. Would you continue talking about the brownies, starting now?
The brownies...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation. It takes such a long time to get going.
No, I think he got going just in time. It is still with you, Clement Freud. The brownies starting now.
The brownies...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge.
Well, I was going to say hesitation again, because he's so slow, he's so ponderous and so boring, really. I mean, you know, every time he's like, the brownies are going... and take 3 onions and 2 turnips. And we all have to do 3 times as much work in 60 seconds as he does.
Well, all right, you do very well, Derek. You've done a tremendous amount of work just then. I'd like to have given you a bonus point for that performance, but unfortunately it doesn't fit in with the game. Clement still has another point, and also 15 seconds of which to continue talking about the brownies, starting now.
The brownies is the female junior organisation of the Boy Scouts, which was founded by Lord Baden.
Prunella Scales.
They're not. They're the female organisation of the Wolf Cubs.
Makes sense. Your chairman has been faced with some knowledge which he doesn't actually possess.
I did say female junior.
Female junior? We spoke so quickly we couldn't hear a word you said.
I do tend to speak very quickly. I'm sorry about this.
Prunella Scales, would you talk about the brownies starting now?
Well, apart from knowing that about them, I don't know anything else about brownies at all. Brownies, for me...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
Why?
She doesn't know anything about them.
All right, yes. The thing is that in this particular game, you often have to talk about something which you don't know anything about. Prunella Scales, you have an extra point, you have 8 seconds, you have the brownies as a subject, and you start now.
Brownies are a cake. You make it with flour and black treacle.
Clement Freud.
Deviation.
Will you justify your brownie cake?
Brownies are cakes. There are some cakes called brownies.
Yeah,
I thought
advertising.
I'd talk about them because I don't know anything about the other
Well
kind.
done.
Filthy advertising.
And you are not below descending to any...
Hesitation.
All right, then, you'll give 2 points to Prunella Scales. Well, thank you very much, Clement Freud. You're being very generous. Will you continue? You still have 3 seconds. You still have the subject, the brownies, Prunella Scales, and we'd like you to start now.
Half a pound of flour.
Well, that's the first time that a guest has joined us and taken such a sharp lead. I must say, with the help of all the other members of the
I was
competition.
winking at Nicholas Parsons.
Right, you're winning the lead, Prunella Scales, with 6 points. Clement Freud has 3. Andree, Melly, and Derek Nimmo have 1 apiece. And Clement Freud, 60 seconds, please, on chemists' shops, starting now.
A man went into a chemist's shop and said, "Do you sell talcum powder?" And the chemist looked at him and said, "Certainly, sir, will you walk this way?" And the man said, "If I could walk that way, I wouldn't sell talcum powder." This is one of the oldest...
Prunella Scales, yes.
He's telling funny stories. He's not talking about chemist shops.
He was still on the subject of chemist shops. I actually heard him say it. So he has got a point. And Clement Freud, there are 35 seconds left for chemist shops, starting now.
Chemist shops are a vital part of the economic life of any community, and in every town and city, one chemist shop stays open all night in case of emergency. Chemist shops sell many beautiful things as well as baby foods and other necessities. They sell medicines that make you happy, cheerful, keep you awake late at night, make you sleep early in the evening.
Well done, Clement Freud. An extra point as the hooter went as you were speaking. Prunella Scales, it's your turn. Would you like to talk for just a minute, please, on the telephone, starting now?
I love the telephone. I would do...
Clement Freud.
Deviation. You were asked to speak on the telephone. You spoke into a microphone.
I think that's a quibble.
It's a rather clever challenge. You might even call it a quibble. I'm with you, Prunella, and you have 57 seconds to continue talking about the telephone, starting now.
If I could, I would do everything on the telephone. Obviously, there are certain...
Most embarrassing. Clement Freud.
Deviation. That is plain kinky. I mean, really.
It may be plain kinky, but as I understand the rules of this game, we're not going in for that type of deviation. You have 53 seconds to continue with your telephone, starting now.
Obviously, there are certain things that cannot be done on the telephone, but otherwise I would do all my shopping and letter writing on the telephone if I possibly could afford it. But of course, it's cheaper not to. My husband hates the telephone. He says that if he says into the telephone Saturday at 2:30, it comes out the other end as Tuesday at 5. However...
However, Andree Melly.
Hesitation.
Yes, I think entirely justified. Would you continue talking about the telephone starting now?
I think that nearly all women like chatting on the telephone and all men hate it. I spend many hours talking to my girlfriends on the phone, and my husband can't understand why it's necessary, what it's all about, and worries about this new system with all the pips that you don't hear, which mean that each minute costs, I think, something like...
Prunella Scales.
Hesitation. Quite unmistakable.
Quite unmistakable. Prunella Scales, you have another point of 15 seconds for the telephone, starting now.
One of the sad things about the telephone nowadays is the substitution of figures for letters. I always used to enjoy those letters that you had, and when you asked somebody for their telephone number, you could always tell where they lived by what they said. Nowadays they say 83...
Derek, it's your turn to begin. And here is a very apt subject for me, but I'm giving it to you to stop for 60 seconds on embarrassment, starting now.
I have always found myself to be an embarrassment. And
This is a sentiment that seems to be shared by many of my friends, particularly Clement Freud. I always remember one particularly embarrassing occasion when I was standing playing a police constable on Wimbledon Common, and the rest of the film unit had gone off somewhere else, leaving me behind.
Prunella Scales, why do you chant?
Deviation and hesitation all the way along the line.
I think you are really chancing your arm a bit too much now. No, Prunella Scales, you have given Derek Nimmo a point, and will you continue talking about
badly needed point?
And as Prunella Scales is covered with embarrassment at this moment, would you continue? With
I was standing there dressed as a policeman when the lady came rushing up to me and said, "My daughter's just been interfered with in the woods. Will you come and please help?" And I said, "I'm terribly sorry, I'm not a real policeman." He said, "You must be a real policeman." And whereupon she dragged me by the arm and asked me to go and rescue her daughter, and it took me a long time and produced a most embarrassing situation before I could extract my...
Andree Melly.
Hesitation.
Yes, I think that was justified. Would you like to talk for the last 16 seconds on embarrassment, starting now?
The most embarrassing situation I had was when I was a schoolgirl about 8, and we used to have to serve at table and clear the food away and pinch the sausages from the toad in the hole and stuff them up our navy blue knickers to eat later.
Derek Nimmo, why...
Deviation.
Why?
Stuffing sausages up her knickers? The most devious thing I've ever heard of. I'm so sorry.
Whatever she did with her sausage, not deviating from the subject. And I would like you to continue, if you can, Andree Melly, on the subject of sausages. No, on the subject of embarrassment, starting now.
That particular day we were caught out.
And Andree Melly has caught up to 6. Still a little behind Clement Freud and Prunella Scales. Derek Nimmo, for once, is left far behind.
Well, I'm rather worried about those sausages up Andree Melly's knickers. We just left them there. Nobody's worried about them at all, poor girl.
Having paused for laughter, we will continue with Andree Melly. And I'd like you to talk, if you can, Andree, for 60 seconds on useless information, starting now.
Why is it that one always seems to be able to remember useless pieces of information and not retain useful ones? For instance, I can never remember exactly how you perform the kiss of life, but one particular fact which I will never forget, though I learned it about 15 years ago, was that lack of vitamin E causes sterility in rats. Now, what possible use this could be to the rats or to me, I really don't know, but it's something that sticks firmly in my mind. I can't remember what lack of vitamin A, B, C, and D causes, except I know...
Prunella Scales.
Deviation?
Why?
Well, she's going on about vitamins now.
I know she's been on about vitamins for quite a time. I think Prunella's challenge is justified. She has a point. She has 27 seconds, and she has the subject of useless information.
Well, one of the reasons I didn't interrupt...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Yes. Derek, would you start now? What's the subject? Useless information, starting now.
The most useless piece of information.
Prunella Scales. What do you challenge on?
Hesitation.
Yes, you've got a point. Take the subject back again. Useless information, starting now.
One of the reasons I didn't interrupt before was because I couldn't think of anything to say about useless information.
Derek Nimmo.
I don't know what she's
Deviation, you're quite right.
Deviation.
You have another point, Derek Nimmo. Useless information, starting now.
If you take 17 pennies...
Hesitation, you have a point. Useless information, your subject, starting now.
In Derek Nimmo's book, Mary Had a Little Lamb and Other Interesting Cases in Gynecology, one of the most useless items of information was talking about...
Derek Nimmo.
Can't hear him.
Well, I'm afraid we could. Is that what you're challenging on?
Deviation.
Not deviation. No, Clement Freud has another point. You have 8 seconds, Clement Freud. Useless information, starting now.
One of the most interesting items about woodlice is how they jump backwards. A woodlice...
Another Scales.
He's talking about woodlice. He's supposed to be talking about useless information.
How do you justify your woodlice and useless information?
This was going to be the most useless information.
It's fascinating.
I think that it sounds as useless about woodlice jumping backwards. It sounds as useless as anything, so continue, please, Clement Freud, starting now.
In a recent questionnaire...
Well, Clement Freud, you gain an extra point as you were speaking as the hooter went. Prunella Scales, it's your turn. Travelling by air, starting now. Derek Nimmo.
Well, there was just all air. There was just hesitation. There was just nothing.
I quite agree. You gained a point, and the subject, travelling by air, Derek Nimmo, starting now.
I think that nothing would be more attractive than climbing into a little basket and soaring up into the clouds with a great balloon billowing above one's head and gradually discarding bags of sand into the earth merrily as you float higher and higher. Also, it'd be awfully nice to look over the edge and see where the bags of sand are landing. Then you go higher and higher and higher. You go over the clouds,
Clement
into
Freud.
the...
Repetition, higher and higher and higher.
When I'm flying, I'd rather fly high, and Derek Nimmo, you have gained a point, and you have 30 seconds for your subject, starting now.
As one approaches London, one would look over the edge of one little basket, observe the Houses of Parliament, and then fly further on across the Thames until one saw the Downs, and there one perhaps would land from one's balloon.
Clement Freud.
Deviation.
Why?
He's landed.
A very clever challenge. The subject actually is travelling by air. Oh, except, I don't know, you've got to land if you travel by air sometime. That's one of those
I was aiming to
occasions-
put some more gas in my balloon.
Yes. Well, I think all of you have plenty of gas with you anyway, and I think it's one of those occasions when, it's very difficult to decide, so let the audience here decide for us. Do you think that Clement Freud's challenge of landing was justified? If so, will you please clap? Do you think that Derek Nimmo was justified in not being challenged? Would you please clap? Derek Nimmo, you've got a point. You're catching up fast. You have 13 seconds. You have the subject travelling by air, and you start now.
Having rapidly put some more gas back into my balloon, I will then go up into the clouds once more, drifting towards the Channel. Then I would look out of my basket and see aeroplanes flying past, great ships of the air.
Clement Freud, why
Hesitation.
Great ships, you know, like you can't say again.
Well, that's...
Ships.
In that case, that's hesitation.
No, it wasn't hesitation within the true meaning of the word, I don't think. He's got another point, and 1 second to go. Your subject is travelling by air, starting now.
An autogyro.
Clement Freud, you... No, I'm sorry, Clement Freud. You challenged beforehand. What was your challenge?
He hadn't got a word out by the time the buzzer went, which was a second, which is hesitation.
Oh, I had. I said an autogyro.
Well, I couldn't wait for it, could I?
No, you tried very hard. I won't give Derek an extra point for that. I know you were just trying. But Derek has now got 8 points. He's overtaken Andree Melly, who's got 6, but he's still not caught up with Clement Freud, who has 11, and Prunella Scales is still just in the lead with 12 points, and it is now Clement Freud, your turn to begin. Would you like to talk for just a minute, please, on Northern Ireland, starting now?
Northern Ireland actually contains 9 counties, whereas Ulster contains 6 counties. The counties of Northern Ireland are Antrim, Tyrone, Armagh, Fermanagh, Down, and a county which currently escapes me, but I'm sure will come back to me. The counties that are in Northern Ireland but are not part of the 6 counties are called Donegal and...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Yes,
he just sort of packed up, really.
He was flying too high with his general knowledge and geography. So you continue with Northern Ireland, starting now.
I've always wanted to go to Northern Ireland, particularly because I rather like the Irish. I always find them to be rather whimsical and amusing, and not a bit like Clement Freud. I've always wanted to find one of those little leaf things that they're always selling in shops in New Bond Street.
Prunella Scales.
That's Southern Ireland. Deviation.
Deviation, yes. And I would justify that because I do think the ones I've seen in the shops are from the south. Prunella Scales...
Yes, but I was going to land in Belfast and then travel through to Dublin to get my little leaf if you'd left me alone.
I have to make a decision. The decision is it is Northern Ireland for Prunella Scales, starting now.
One of the only things I know about Northern Ireland is that the Giant's Causeway is there. I think it's a formation of rocks or something, and people go to see it from all over Northern Ireland, and indeed from abroad when they go there to see this phenomenon.
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Yes. You have about 5 seconds. Continue with Northern Ireland, starting now.
I once met a gentleman in a pub in Dublin.
Clement Freud.
Deviation. I once met a gentleman in a pub in Dublin. It has nothing to do with Northern Ireland.
You have gained an extra point, Clement Freud. You have about 3 or 4 seconds, starting now.
Belfast is the capital city of Northern Ireland. It has a...
Incidentally, that last round, Clement, has brought you up level with Prunella Scales, who are in the lead, but Derek Nimmo shot into 3rd place now ahead of Andree Melly, who is 4th. Derek Nimmo, it's your turn to begin, and we'd like you to try and talk for a minute on being absolutely sincere, starting now.
This is difficult for me because I'm the most insincere person that I know. I'm, in fact, a
Prunella
strong...
Scales, why do you challenge?
Well, if he starts off talking about being absolutely sincere, saying that he's the most insincere person... I think it's deviation.
It's a very subtle point. I won't give you the benefit of the doubt next time. That's what I'm saying. I'll give it to you this time. Would you continue with your subject being absolutely sincere? Starting now.
Sincerity is an attribute which I would like to possess. I've always admired the people who possess sincerity. Those members of Parliament, Mr. Harold Wilson, Mr. George... Those wonderful people who can go on the television screen and say, I am being absolutely sincere when I tell you. I've always wondered those people, and it has always caused me great regret that I haven't possessed that degree of sincerity. Sometimes, when wandering through Northern Ireland...
Deviation.
Why? Well, how are you going to continue, Derek?
I was going to talk about the most sincere person I ever met in Northern Ireland, you see. I met him wandering through this lane. You didn't allow me to meet him, you see. He was just round the next corner, actually, and I nearly got there.
Derek, would you continue with the subject, being absolutely sincere, starting now?
Being absolutely sincere is of vital importance if you want to be a politician or a cookery expert. If you are a cookery expert, it is terribly important to put down on a piece...
Prunella Scales.
He's talking about cookery experts and not being absolutely sincere.
Are you suggesting that cookery experts aren't sincere?
I do think he quite ably...
Deviation.
No, you can't change the challenge. I think he quite ably managed to put the two together. And he still has 4 seconds in which to continue the subject, starting now.
If you go through a vocabulary, you will find sincere under letter S.
Derek Nimmo, who's now shot into the lead from being number 4, with Clement Freud and Prunella Scales all equal, and Andree Melly a little way behind. But she has a chance now, because it's her turn to begin, and Andree Melly, I'd like you to talk for 60 seconds, please, on My Best Enemy, starting now.
My best enemy was a girl called Eve Lovett. She had red hair and a lot of freckles, and I was 7 at the time, and she must have been about 10, though she seemed to me to be about 35. She was the absolute terror of the particular form I was in, and everyone was very frightened of her, me in particular. One of the favourite things she used to do was to say to the rest of the girls, hands up, everybody who likes me. And if I put my hand up, I was accused of lying, which was perfectly true because I hated her guts. And if I didn't put my hand up, I was victimized for not liking her. One of her favourite punishments was to take me outside the classroom after school, make me climb up a monkey puzzle tree and hang by my knees until my Wellington boots fell off, which she would then hide, while a very irate uncle who came to collect me because I was a day girl in the school, which was mostly boarders, would stand by while I tried to find the Wellington boots.
Well, that actually is the first time that somebody in this particular game has actually managed to speak for 60 seconds without the other members finding any fault and being able to find any reason to challenge. So I think she needs a round of applause and certainly an extra point. Well done, Andree Melly. Prunella Scales, it is your turn. Would you like to talk, please, on the subject of ice for 60 seconds, starting now?
Ice is perfectly horrible stuff. It's nasty on the roads.
Andree Melly, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, I think it was hesitation, yes. It's only just, it's so difficult to decide, but I think just, yes. Andree Melly, it's with you, ice. And this, starting now.
My fridge always gets over-iced and has to be defrosted, which is a very complicated operation, as you press a red button and turn a number right down to 0, and then the ice, as it's melting, falls off in large lumps and clatters to the floor in nasty puddles. I was very impressed in America with these ice-making machines. I didn't understand how they worked, but the ice used to come out in small cubes into the whiskey or whatever it was you were drinking, and this was a terrific status symbol, especially in hotels, Cocktails, which advertised that they had special ice-making machines in the rooms to go with the television sets, etc.
It was too good to be true, wasn't it, Clement Freud? You challenge.
Yes, hesitation.
Hesitation. Well, you continue talking about ice. There are 13 seconds left, starting now.
Ice is a very important thing to have in drinks because drinks must be very cold, and the best way to cool drinks is to put lumps of ice into it, preferably into a cocktail shaker, and take a cocktail stick and shake the ice around.
Prunella, you challenged just before the hooter. Why?
Well, deviation, really, because he was on to cocktails. I was only trying to save.
But you did say you had ice in the cocktails, didn't you? So I'm sorry. No, you've actually given him a point by doing that, and he gets a point for finishing as it went, which puts him into the lead with... oh, yes, just into the lead. What a pity. Anyway, because I...
You see, he wanted Prunella scales to win.
No, do you not? No. I asked the audience, and particularly Clement Freud, to believe me that I made that last remark because I looked at the score, and this is the last one coming up, and I was hoping that for once we were all going to finish equal and level, and I had this great sense of fair play. And everybody to be equal at the end. Let us continue, and we'll give you, for the last one in this particular game, Clement Freud, a rather clever and unusual subject, at least I think you can all make it this way. It's the subject of silence, and I'd like you to start now. Derek Nimmo, you've had the
Well, the illustration was too long.
I think I will have to give you that, yes.
I mean, you know, silence. That's enough of it.
Yes,
and
but
on you get.
What you really meant to say, Derek Nimmo, was hesitation. He gave
Hesitation,
the silence.
indeed,
Well,
yeah,
repetition, yes, he repeated it.
Deviation, he hadn't said a thing, you see. I mean,
all right, so you've gained a point, and we'd like you to continue now, Derek Nimmo, with the subject of silence starting now.
I do like to have little quiet moments on my own. I go off into a corner of a little room, lock the door, and sit down by myself in
Vanilla
silence.
Scales.
Locking the door would make a noise. He's not talking about silence.
No, it's just coming up, you see. You've got to prepare yourself for silence.
A very clever challenge. I will grant you that, Prunella Scales. Would you like to talk about silence starting now?
Why do they say that silence is golden? Silence to me seems to be sort of pale grey or possibly white. As long as it goes on for a long time, it could even become completely colourless silence and sort of...
Andree Melly.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. You've gained a point. Would you like to talk about silence? There are 33 seconds left, starting now.
I think it was Humpty Dumpty who said, "I've never heard such a silent silence in all my life." I knew exactly what he meant because there are different degrees of silence. There's I think that absolute...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Hesitation it is. And Derek, you have a point, and the subject back with you, silence, and start now.
It says in Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verse 12.
Prunella Scales.
It's Ecclesiastes, not
No, it isn't.
Ecclesiastes.
It's got nothing to do with silence, the challenge.
Deviation. He can't be inaccurate, can he?
Yes, I should think so. We're all very inaccurate on occasion.
Ecclesiastes and Ecclesiasticus. There are two books.
I think we'll be with you, Derek, with an extra point to continue with silence starting now.
As it says in the particular book of the Holy Bible which I just mentioned, a threefold cord is not easily broken. This is the sort of remark that one often makes to produce a silence.
Hesitation. Yes.
No, just my natural impediment, really.
Oh,
I think.
dear.
You see, you should
the
make
audience
people
have very definite opinions. They're quite divided.
Yeah.
I'll let you be the judges because do you think it was definite hesitation? If so, please clap. Definite hesitation. Not hesitation, please clap. 5 seconds left. The subject is still silence. It's still with Derek Nimmo. Will you start now?
I go into my little room and very quietly close the door and sit down alone in my corner.
Well, that's very interesting. The silence took Derek into the lead. He's only 1 point ahead of Clement Freud, and who is only 1 point ahead of Prunella Scales, who is 2 points ahead of Andree Melly. And that is the way that this particular game finished up. So congratulations to all four. It was very, very close. I'm sorry I couldn't make it square all round. Thank you very much to our four contestants. Okay. All did terribly well. I thought they were all very clever this week, and I hope that you enjoyed the show. If you want tickets to come and sit in the audience, please write in to the BBC, Post Office Box 1A, London West 1. If not, I hope you'll enjoy it next week, when once again we'll be with you for Just a Minute.
The chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hatch.
We present Clement Freud, Derek Nimmo, Amy MacDonald, and Una Stubbs in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is the man of the minute, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much indeed, and hello. Welcome once again to Just a Minute, and also this delightful and erudite-looking panel. We have two most attractive people, Clement Freud and Derek Nimmo, who have been on the programme since it started, and on the distaff side, far outshining them in personal looks. Amy MacDonald, who is lovely, and Una Stubbs, who is also lovely. And they are going to compete with Derek and Clement Freud, against each other, of course, in just a minute, in which I will throw, as probably many of you know now, a subject out to one of them at different times and ask them to speak for just a minute without deviating, without pausing, or without going off the subject. Let us start straight off this week with Derek Nimmo, and I would like Derek to talk, if he can, about my honeymoon starting now.
My honeymoon took place in the south of France. We started off, actually, I was married in Liverpool, and then we came down and we stayed at the Dorchester Hotel overnight. Then we caught a train, a very slow train, and as soon as we arrived in the south of France, my wife developed a violent attack of asthma, and I had to summon the local doctor. This went on for 2 or 3 days and 3 or 4 nights, and the whole thing was rather cheery, actually. She recovered after that because she met an old lady on the beach with a hooter.
Amy MacDonald, why do you challenge?
I think I was a bit late, actually, but he was talking about his honeymoon being dreary. I don't see how a honeymoon can be dreary.
You don't know Derek Nimmo, obviously. It was a very good try. I'm sure no honeymoon of yours could ever be dreary, Amy, but Derek seems to be conveying this point. I hope it gets more cheerful as it goes on, Derek. You've still got the subject. Starting now.
Well, towards the end of the honeymoon, I received a telegram from one Arthur Lane summoning me to come back to London to appear in a play. When I got back to London, I found that the play had been cancelled. And therefore, the whole thing was very disastrous because I couldn't go back to the south of France. I'm really at the end of the honeymoon. If anyone wants to challenge me, they should if I was able to.
Amy MacDonald, you've challenged again.
Deviation.
Yes.
Yes.
He was going back and forth,
right
wasn't
off your honeymoon, didn't you, darling?
I got right off it right early on.
Amy, would you like to take up this subject? There are 10 seconds. No, there are 9 seconds left. Starting now.
My honeymoon wasn't very exciting at all, really, because we didn't really have time to have a proper honeymoon. So we went to see my mother-in-law, who lives in Ohio.
Derek, you just got your challenge in before the hooter.
Well, she said she didn't have a proper honeymoon, so she wasn't talking about a honeymoon, she was talking about her mother-in-law, which she obviously didn't like anyway.
I entirely disagree. It was still my honeymoon. I don't know anything about Amy's.
My absence of honeymoon, she was talking about.
Derek, I don't know anything about Amy's actual honeymoon, but I must only take her word that what she said was accurate about it. There's 1 second left, Amy, to talk about my honeymoon, starting now.
When we
and
got
Derek Nimmo challenged.
Hesitation, she hadn't said anything.
Oh, objection.
Why do you object? I'll give you another go. You have 1 second to talk about my honeymoon, starting now.
When we got to...
I think we'll give it to the ladies, as she's the first time she's a guest, Derek. You did manage to press your buzzer very quickly, but Amy is now in the lead. And Amy, you're going to start the next subject, and we'd like you to talk for just a minute, if you can, please, about my bedroom, starting now.
My bedroom is very pink, and it has a bed in it, and it has 2 little side tables, and a great wardrobe that goes practically all the way around, and a telephone. I like to go into my bedroom when I want to sleep and when I want to think. I think in my bedroom because I think it's very relaxing, and I talk in my bedroom an awful lot because the phone's there.
Derek Nimmo.
I'm worried about her husband, actually. I mean, all these honeymoons she's been on there. All she's
You
doing is
never
talking
know,
to
Derek. If you were patient, he might even come into her bedroom.
She's talking to herself.
She was still quite definitely on about her bedroom. And Amy, it's still with you, my bedroom, starting now.
My bedroom is lovely to think in, so I go in there when I want to.
Clement Freud.
Repetition.
Yes, she did say it was lovely to think in before. I'm sorry, Amy. Clement Freud, my bedroom, starting now.
My bedroom is lovely to think in. It has walls and a ceiling and a counterpane. It also contains a bed and a wardrobe in which I hang my clothes. My bedroom overlooks St. John's Wood, mostly because I live in St. John's Wood. Looking out of my bedroom window, I see streets, and in the evening I see streetlights.
Derek Nimmo.
Deviation. He's talking about the streets outside his bedroom. He's left his bedroom now. He climbs through the window out in St. John's Wood.
All right, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. My bedroom, starting now.
My bedroom's absolutely delicious. I have on my bed 40 jackal skins I got in Addis Ababa.
Clement Freud.
That's kinky.
So
or deviation, as you put it.
Have you really got 40 jackal skins?
I really have, yes.
Well, then I think it's justified.
Absolutely, truly.
I don't believe you.
Absolutely, truly.
Well, we can only take Derek Nimmo's word for it, and I'm afraid we haven't got time to send someone round to Derek Nimmo's flat. So, Derek Nimmo. My bedroom, and there are still 15 seconds left starting now.
Behind my bed, I have a zebra skin, which I can lean back on, together with my wife, because we spend a lot of time in bed together. Also in the room, I have a television set, which is poised so I can view it from lying amongst my jackal skins.
Clement Freud, would you like to take up the game now and talk about racing for just a minute, starting now?
Racing usually means horse racing, and in the horse racing annual calendar, there are 5 classic races. These are for 3-year-old horses, both fillies and colts. The first one is 1,000 guineas, the second the 2,000 guineas, followed by the Derby and the Oaks, which are run at Epsom, and towards the end of the year, the St. Leger, which is run at Doncaster. Racing is a pastime to which many rich people subscribe, but an awful lot of poor people own racehorses and go bankrupt trying to make ends meet. Racecourses in England start in Newton Abbot in Devon. You then have the Devon and Exeter course and go up through Wincanton Racecourse, Taunton.
Derek Nimmo.
He's talking about the courses, not the actual racing. Deviation.
Oh dear, it's so difficult. Racing takes place on race courses. I'm going to appeal to our audience, which I've done before, and ask them to judge this tricky point. Now, do you think that Derek Nimmo's challenge of deviation was justified? If you do, will you clap, and if not, will you boo? I think they're with Clement Freud. So, Clement, you have 14 seconds left for racing, starting now.
There's also go-kart racing and racing by people against...
Hesitation.
Definite hesitation.
Yes, all right. Una, would you like to take over the subject for racing, starting now?
There are all sorts of ways of racing. You can race against time. You can race for the bus. You can erase a mark on a piece of...
As the hooter went while Una was speaking, she gains a point. And the score, by the way, at this particular moment is Derek Nimmo and Amy MacDonald equal in the lead, closely followed by Clement Freud, closely followed 1 point behind by Una Stubbs. And Una, it is you to start. We'd like you to talk, if you can, on the subject of the oldest joke in the world, starting now.
The oldest joke in the world is, who was that lady I saw you with last night? That was no lady, that was my wife.
Well, Derek Nimmo, you challenged.
Well, I don't think it is the oldest joke in the world. Many older ones there.
Well, I think you only justify that by telling us an older one.
Why did Father Time cross the road to get to the other side?
Oh!
Well, they groaned. They must be
Nobody groaned and nobody challenged. I will tell you the oldest joke in the world. Oh, Amy MacDonald, you come.
I don't think it's the oldest joke in the world, and I'm not very good at jokes, really. But there is a joke I think it's pretty old. Do you want me to tell it?
Carry on as rapidly as you can, talking about the oldest joke in the world, starting now.
Well, there was this little cat, you see, and... No, there were 3 little cats, sorry. And they all had collections. One collected beans, one collected beer, and one collected cha-cha-cha records. And one day, they all went out for a walk. And when they came back, all their collections were gone, you see. So they all turned round to each other and they said, "Oh, where are our collections gone?" So suddenly they looked round and there's a little mouse in the corner going, cha-cha-cha.
I quickly continued talking before somebody challenges you.
Oh, well, I'd say there's another older joke then, if you like.
What are you challenging for?
Well, it's not the oldest joke. Deviation, do you see?
It is
Deviation.
one of the... It wasn't. It was hesitation. I mean,
Oh, hesitation, anything like, I don't mind.
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, you are right. You've got a point. Clement Freud. The oldest joke in the world, starting now.
How long have I got?
You've got 13 seconds. You've been a pretty quick one.
I think the oldest joke in the world is sitting not very far from me and is called Derek Nimmo. Few people laugh at Derek Nimmo, which is because he is such a very old joke.
Amy MacDonald, we are back with you, and we want you to tell us, if you can, in just a minute, about your school days starting now.
Well, I don't think my school days were the happiest days of my life because I was always in trouble. And there was a nasty little boy that used to sit behind me and do terrible things to me. I used to have very long hair, and he did the usual things like sticking it in inkwells. And I wasn't very clever. And when I first went to school, we used to get the belt. And I always got the belt because I wasn't very clever and I used to talk a lot. And this belt was long and it had 3 thongs at the end, and we used to have to stick our hands out and we got it right on the end of our fingers, which wasn't very lovely. And often in school we had to eat, and the school dinners weren't very lovely at all because the potatoes were a bit green and the mince was always a bit runny, and I don't like mince anyway. And also, to get to school, you see, I had to go on a bicycle. It wasn't very far from where I live, and I couldn't ride this bicycle very well, and everybody used to sort of laugh at me, so
I think you just got in before the thing. Now, that's only the second time that this has happened, that somebody has spoken for just a minute without being challenged, and I think an extra round of applause as well as a bonus point to Amy MacDonald. Well done, Amy. Clement Freud, would you like to talk for just a minute on Cutting's books, starting now?
Cutting's books are large scrapbooks into which one sticks one's newspaper cuttings. I've been keeping Cutting's books for many years on all sorts of subjects like the lovely Amy MacDonald, keeping pigs, my bedroom, and a number of other fascinating topics. Each Cutting's book has a different colour and has entered on the outside the dates appertaining to the cuttings which are stuck inside it. There are a number of ways of sticking things into Cutting's books, among which flour and hot water is probably the cheapest, and specially treated paper of a kind that one is not supposed to talk about, possibly the most expensive. The great danger about Cutting's books is that when you put in the pieces of paper which you want to refer to later on, is they tend to stick to each other. So when you finish with a Cutting's book, the whole book is stuck together and you can't open it again, which is very useful because by and large you don't want to open the things again because you're bored.
Well, we are being brilliant today. Closely followed by Amy MacDonald is Clement Freud, speaking for the first time for just a minute without being challenged, without deviating, without pausing, without hesitating. Another extra round of applause and a bonus point to Clement Freud.
I think you ought to explain that Derek Nimmo's fallen asleep.
Una, would you like to talk for just a minute on a delightful subject of making a cheesecake, starting now?
For this cheesecake, you'd need 1.5 pounds of curd cheese, a cup of caster sugar, a spoonful of corn flour, 3 eggs, and 3 ounces of butter.
Amy MacDonald.
Cheating, she knows how to make cheesecake.
Is that why you're challenging?
Yes.
It doesn't fit into the game. I'm very sorry, Amy. So you've given Una an extra point. Una, carry on with your cheesecake starting now.
7 or 8 digestive biscuits and a push-up bottomed cake tin. You cream.
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation. You said you cream. Or repetition.
She certainly hesitated. Derek Nimmo, how about your cheesecake? Can you talk for the 42 seconds left on making a cheesecake, starting now?
Well, I should hire a little studio in Soho and advertise for a young lady to come along to be photographed. This would be my cheesecake photograph. And I should hope to make my cheesecake immediately after I'd photographed her. I would ask her to come into my little room and say, oh dear, hurry up and stand.
Are you challenging?
I'm buzzing because I think it's getting very cheeky.
Are you going to challenge for cheek or something else?
Hesitation.
Oh, no, he didn't hesitate at all. Derek, you still are making a cheesecake in your studio. And you have 22 seconds left for this cheesecake. Continuing now.
I should photograph my cheesecake on 40 jackal skins, which I should spread across a bed, which I would specially bring from my home address. There she would lie, and then when having photographed my cheesecake, then I would sell the rights of the photographs to such magazines as...
Illegal.
Whether it's illegal or not, is there any other justifiable reason within the rules of the game for which you challenge?
This is a deviation from the law. Illegal.
Ian Mester thought of the game. What do you consider on this occasion, Ian?
I think Clement is right. It's a deviation in the law.
You have 4 seconds on which to make a cheesecake, Clement Freud. How would you do it, starting now?
You start with butter or margarine, of which you take 4 or 6 ounces and cream them in a bowl with sugar.
Well, as the buzzer went, as Clement Freud was speaking, he gains an extra point. And Derek Nimmo, it is your turn. We would like you to speak for just a minute, please, on the subject of gate crashing without ever using the word I. We start now.
The most expert person that is known to me
Clement Freud.
as a gate crasher.
Yes, all right, he hesitated. Clement Freud, without using the word I, would you talk on gate crashing starting now?
When we want to gate crash a party, we usually go to parties to which we haven't been invited. We knock on the door and wait for someone to let us in. We only ever gate crash parties to which we have not been asked, because otherwise it wouldn't be fair. We come dressed in our best party clothes and say, "Thank you very much for inviting us. It was most kind of you," which makes the host think that he has in fact invited us, which he hasn't. A good way to go gate crashing into a party is to bring along a glass with you, and then people think, aha, he has been in before and he is coming back. Let us let him in. Another very excellent way of gate crashing, which we found to be most beneficial and reaping rewards second almost to none, is to go with a whiskey bottle into which you stick a candle. You light the candle, and nobody thinks that there's whiskey in the whiskey bottle. So people say, what a clever man to do all this without...
What a clever chap as well, because once again he wasn't challenged, he did so well. And very cleverly bent the rules to his own advantage. Una, would you like to talk now? Without using the word no, and without using the word and. And the subject is what to sell at a jumble sale. I'll give you a second to think about it. What to sell at a jumble sale. You mustn't say no, and you mustn't say and. And you start now.
To sell it...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation, really, I'm afraid.
Yes, right.
I'm sorry,
No no's
Sam,
and no ands. What to sell at a jumble sale, starting now.
Sausages, tomatoes, old socks, old boots, cabbages and kings, newspapers...
And?
Una,
He
and.
said and.
Yes, right. So well spotted. Una, you still have quite a lot of time. What to sell at a jumble sale, starting now.
To sell at a jumble sale, you would advertise in a local paper for any leftover clothes from very tall girls. You would go and collect these clothes in a horse and cart.
Clement Freud.
Horse and cart.
Well done. Clement Freud, there are still 37 seconds. No no's, no ands. What to sell at a jumble sale, starting now.
Jumble sales are very good institutions, invariably set up by the parson or other cleric of whatever parish the jumble sale happens to find itself in. The sort of things that you are likely to find on the shelves of stalls to which you might go are items of clothing, articles of footwear, hats, or all sorts of outer garments which could be taken off, put onto shelves, sold to the general public, who are invariably happy.
Amy MacDonald.
Hesitation.
Oh, yes, well, but I would almost feel him thinking, couldn't you, audience?
Drones on.
I think on this particular occasion we will allow a little leeway for thought because of having to think about the nose and the ands, and I will give the benefit of the doubt to Clay. Clement Freud, would you continue with the subject? I'll give you the time. There are only 2 seconds to go, actually, and no nose, no ands, in 2 seconds. What to sell at a jumble sale starting now.
Vicar's old pantaloons.
Yeah, I thought that was a very noble effort, Clement. It was very, very difficult. All right, Derek Nimmo, would you like to talk about this audience? That is the subject. We'll give another penalty because I think it's rather interesting. And this time, not to use the word the. Even more difficult. You mustn't use the word the. The subject is this audience, and you start now.
When this audience came in and sat in ye seats in ye auditorium, they appeared to be most comfortable. When I looked around me and I saw ye smiling faces on ye heads.
Hesitation.
Oh, ye speak truly. Clement Freud, this audience, remember the word the and start now.
This audience is particularly attractive. I have seen many among them whose smiling faces and happy dispositions were of such subtle and beautiful simplicity that I said unto myself, what a charming audience the British Broadcasting Corporation have gathered together, and nobody noticed that I used the definite pronoun.
Amy MacDonald. Did you notice, or did you because Clement said it? Yes. Oh, that's right. You did notice. We'd spotted it here, but we didn't want to say it. Amy, right. The subject is this audience. A point to you. And know these. Start. Oh, you don't know the time. You have 17 seconds left, starting now.
This audience is made up of several ladies and several gentlemen. A lot of the ladies are wearing hats and have got a lot of smiles on their faces.
Derek.
Repetition. We've had an awful lot of smiling faces. There's a lot of flattery flying around.
Yes, we've had repetition. You refer to their smiling faces.
And played it too, you see.
Oh, well, you won on deviation, a point, and you have 8 seconds. This audience, know these, starting now.
One of the audience...
Clement Freud.
No.
Hesitation, right? You still have 5 seconds. This audience, starting now.
Among this audience, particularly, I would like to commend a gentleman who is wearing...
The score at this particular point is Clement Freud, 18, who's now taking commanding lead. He is followed by Derek, Nimmo, and Amy MacDonald, equal with 10, and a little way behind is Una Stubbs. Oh. Now, Amy MacDonald, let us go faster this time without any penalties and ask you to talk about the subject of holidays starting now.
I like holidays because it gives you plenty of time to relax and have a good time. The best bit about holidays, I think, is sunshine, and I always like to go where there's lots of sunshine and sit on a beach and lie in the sunshine and get very brown. I also like to eat on holiday, so I prefer to go abroad where the food is different and interesting, and I also like to swim and do things that appear to me...
Una Stubbs.
Quite a lot of hesitation.
Quite a lot of hesitation. Una, will you take over holidays starting now?
A marvellous...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Holidays, Derek Nimmo, starting now.
Down to the Sussex coast, on my tricycle, riding down with my rucksack on my back and my Union Jack in my right hand. And I think to myself, what
Una
fun
Stubbs.
it will be when I... What?
Una Stubbs. Why do you challenge?
Well, it's sort of repetitious of what's gone on before.
Yes, we've had his rucksack and his Union Jack many times before. If not in this show, we've had it in another show anyway.
Yes,
so,
I
all
had
right,
it on the last program.
you've got it back, Una. You've got it back, and you have 15 seconds for holidays, starting now.
Holidays for me are just leaping into bed and sleeping for several weeks or...
Derek Nimmo.
Repetitions, back in our bedroom again.
I I didn't have a go in the bedroom last
You didn't have a go in the bedroom? You mean you justify because everybody else had a go in the bedroom and you haven't? You think
Well, he was talking about his zoo or something when you...
Yes. Well, it's a very strange way of leaping into bed and sleeping. But anyway, all right, Una, we'll give it to you. You have 12 seconds to go. Holidays starting now. Clement Freud. Hesitation. Holidays starting now.
The nicest sort of holiday is when Derek Nimmo takes a rucksack, bedecked with a Union Jack, and goes to Calais.
Derek Nimmo.
I quite agree with him. But anyway, it's bound to be repetition, but I had it disallowed. And
All right,
still
it
my
is
rucksack
repetition.
still on my back and still going down to Sussex.
Either way, you were sort of trying to browbeat the chairman and justify your point before you've even had a chance to adjudicate, as they say.
Yes.
All right, we have 3 seconds left, Derek Nimmo. Holidays starting now.
Wallowing in the Cyprus sunshine, I lie with my tricolour.
And I've just time to say that the victory in this programme went to Clement Freud, closely followed by Derek Nimmo, and equal third, Una Stubbs and Amy MacDonald. And this is Nicholas Parsons saying goodbye.
The chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hatch.
We present Clement Freud, Derek Nimmo, Anona Wynne, and Lucy Bartlett in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is the man of the minute, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much indeed, and welcome once again to Just a Minute. Well, I give each member of these 4 contestants in turn an unlikely subject and ask them to speak for just a minute without deviating, without pausing, and without hesitating. And with those thoughts in mind, let us ask Anona Wynne to start and try and speak for a minute on the subject of bloomer, starting now.
Bloomer is a word which can be applied, of course, to a flower. People put on the packet when you buy the seed, this is a free bloomer. A bloomer is also a thing that you can make when you drop a clanger. You can also make a pair of bloomers. These are worn by ladies. I dare say gentlemen have worn them at times when short of other things. Bloomers are supposed...
Derek Nimmo.
But she hesitated after her last bloomer.
I swallowed. I purely swallowed.
I think some people do hesitate after their last bloomer. I don't think the hesitation was justified, Derek. We're still with you, Anona Wynne. You have 30 seconds left. We do go on talking about a bloomer starting now.
Bloomers, as I have said...
Derek Nimmo.
Repetition. We've had 5 pairs of bloomers.
Yes, in actual fact, it wasn't repetition. If you challenge her for deviation, because the subject is bloomer and not bloomers.
Well, when I'm talking about more than one bloomer, I have to say bloomers, don't I, you see?
No, it's still with Anona Wynne. Still 28 seconds, Anona. Bloomer starting now.
This thing...
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
And she's just joined us, and I don't think it's justified. Anona, 26 seconds, bloomer starting now.
This thing that I have been asked...
Clement Freud.
Excessive noise.
A very good try, but all you've done is to give Anona another point, and she's already got 4 points, and she's only come with us for the first time today. And you have 18 seconds left for your bloomer starting now.
On this subject, I would say...
Derek Nimmo.
Favouritism.
Anona Wynne now has 5 points. And the subject is still bloomer, starting now.
As I was saying about a bloomer which made in
Derek
pairs...
Nimmo. As I was saying, it must be repetition if you already said it, you see.
Oh, dear, I tell you what I'll do. We have a delightful and happy-looking audience here. I will ask them to be the judge of this. Do you think that Derek Nimmo's challenge was justified? Now, if you agree, will you cheer? And if you disagree, will you boo? Ready, now. I think the cheers just got it. And no, you've got another point. You've got Bloomer, and you have 18 seconds to go, starting now.
People think that bloomers in the plural were invented by a Mrs. Bloomer. They could not be more wrong.
Derek Nimmo.
Must be repetition now. There are about 25 pairs of bloomers.
No, I don't think we had enough bloomers for repetition yet. So, Nona Wynne, you've still got it. You've 13 seconds. Bloomer, starting now.
They were invented by a Mrs. Bloomer, and that is not repetition.
Derek Nimmo, you're new challenge. Why?
Well, she invented them just before.
She did. I agree it was repetition this time. I quite agree. Derek Nimmo, you have it. You have 9 seconds left for Bloomer, starting now.
I once wore a pair of bloomers. I was about to go on stage in Johannesburg, and I discovered my own pants were
Clement Freud.
Boasting.
There might have been a slight touch of deviation. It was very suggestive, but certainly no boasting. 2 seconds left for you, Derek. If you can, you make a bloomer in 2 seconds, starting now.
Oh, golly gosh.
That silly little bicycle hooter was Ian Messiter. He actually blew it. Well, he didn't blow it, he squeezed it and made the noise, which denoted that 60 seconds was up, and whoever is speaking when 60 seconds up, of course, gains an extra point. And Derek Nimmo, I'm going to ask you to carry on talking this time for just a minute, and the subject is things I throw away, starting now.
I often throw the most unlikely things away. I once threw a bowler hat out of a window because I didn't care for it awfully, and it landed in my garden, and the next time I saw it, it had moss all over it. I also tend to throw away lines off my cuff. This is a technique employed.
Clement Freud.
Rather bad actors like me. What?
Hesitation.
I think you were justified, yes. In spite of Derek's claim sometimes that he has an impediment, that was a definite hesitation. Clement Freud, things I throw away, starting now.
I mostly tend to throw away cricket bats, but I have on occasion thrown away stumps, pads, and the whole wicket. On one specific occasion, in late October 1953, it was my turn to throw away the Christmas pudding. The Christmas pudding had been made the previous January, too late for Christmas, and my wife opened the window and said, "It is your turn to throw out this object," which she passed to me, which was flared with brandy. So I gripped it in both my hands and I threw it and followed it with 2 mince pies, half a pint of cream, some caster sugar.
What a bad advertisement for someone who talks on cooking normally. Anyway, Clement Freud, you managed to gain an extra point with that, and we're going to start the next round with Lucy Bartlett. Now, here's a delightful subject for you, Lucy. Would you try and talk for just a minute on getting ready to go to bed, starting now?
Well, getting ready to go to bed is a thing that I hate more than anything else in the world because it takes me about 2 hours. There's so many things to do before you go to bed. It makes the mind boggle. First of all, you have to do the washing up and the drying up and put everything away. You then lock up. You then make sure that the cat's in, or if it's out, you have to lock the door. Then you leave the kitchen, locking the door behind you.
Clement Freud.
Repetition.
What?
2 doors locked.
Well, there might be 2 doors to lock. If you'd said because she was locking the same door twice, I would have said yes.
That is repetition.
Yeah, that is repetition.
That is what
but
is meant by repetition.
Yes, I know what is meant by repetition. But you said 2 doors.
Yes is the word you're searching for.
No, it isn't. I assume from what you said that there is more than 1 door to her cottage, or wherever she lives, and I think that she's quite justified. So I'm assuming that you were locking more than 1 door.
Oh, millions of doors.
Of course.
There are a lot more to
Lucy,
lock.
you still have the subject. You have 33 seconds left for getting ready to go to bed, starting now.
I climb the stairs very, very quietly.
Clement Freud.
Deviation, that's going to bed.
That's before I go to bed, I have to climb the stairs.
Yes, but she's getting ready to go to bed, so you've got to get upstairs to get even further ready. You must have a very strange way of going to bed, Clement. That's what I can say. My goodness me, we must hear about that one of these days. Anyway, 27 seconds still, getting ready to go to bed. Lucy, carry on now.
When I've reached the top of the stairs, I turn sharp right and go up another 3 stairs.
Nona Wynne, why do you challenge?
I don't believe in all these stairs. She may have a lot of doors, but I don't think she's got
Derek
all those
Nimmo,
stairs.
you can't challenge when someone's already challenged.
Well, I do believe in them because I've been there.
Scandal.
Well, all that's happened is that Lucy Bartlett's got 2 points because 2 people challenged at the same time. Lucy, 20 seconds left. We're getting very interested in you, how you get to bed. Honestly, it's going to be written up everywhere. Carry on, would you, for 20 seconds, getting ready to go to bed now.
I reach my door, which is on the left. I grovel in my undergarments to find the key. I shut the door quietly behind me and turn on the radio. I then sit down at my dressing table.
Win.
So much repetition of doors. It was beds we were after. She hasn't got anywhere near the bed yet.
The subject is getting ready to go to bed. And
yes.
Lucy Bartlett, you have another point. You have 8 seconds left. Anyway, carry on now.
I sit down at my dressing table and take my hair off. I then...
And none of the audience can believe that she could take her lovely hair off. Anyway, you've managed to gain from that 6 points. And you're now behind Anona Wynne, who's in the lead with 7, and the 2 men, for the first time, are trailing 3 and 2. So this is a very interesting situation. Clement Freud, we'd like you to start this time and talk, if you can, for just a minute, on a very mundane subject, bread and butter pudding, starting now.
Bread and butter pudding is more a way of life than a desirable sweetmeat. Bread and butter pudding is yellow and...
Anona Wynne, why do you challenge?
Repetition.
Justified, please.
Well, we've had 2 bread and butter puddings, and one's enough.
Very clever, but not enough to get a point. Clement Freud, you're still with your bread and butter pudding, starting now.
The aforementioned sweetmeat is light yellow and buttery and bready and custardy and sweet. And if sugar is strewn on top of it and it's put into a hot oven, it also has a golden brown crust. Let me tell you how one goes about manufacturing or constructing one of these delicacies. You get slices of bread from which you remove the rind and spread good unsalted butter thereupon. Building up slice after slice of bread, interrupted only...
Derek Nimmo.
Slice after slice of bread. Repetition, you say.
Very clever, but not enough to gain a point. You've given one to Clement Freud, and we'd like to hear more about your bread and butter pudding for 15 seconds, starting now.
We now have our pyramid of buttered bread, rind...
Derek Nimmo.
Oh, an awful lot of bread. He's gone back and got some more now.
I'm sure bread and butter pudding needs an awful lot of bread, so we're still with you, Clement Freud. Carry on now.
Actually, the best bread and butter pudding has no bread or butter in it at all. It's made...
Anona Wynne.
He's going mad. You've given him license. Repetition, I'm sorry. I mean, couldn't...
Just explain yourself quite clearly.
Well, it's bread and it's butter and it's bread and it's butter and it's bread. There are other things.
Why do you challenge then?
I challenged on repetition.
Look, once again, I'm going to appeal to this audience. So, do you think that Anona Wynne is justified on challenging on repetition here? If you do, will you cheer? And if you disagree, will you boo? Now. You disagree with Anona Wynne. Clement Freud has another point, and you have 4 seconds left for your bread and butter pudding, starting now.
Milk, sugar, sultanas, colors, raisins...
Well, you have now got 6 points, Clement Freud, or equal Lucy Bartlett. You're just behind Anona Wynne, and I'm sure that after your bread and butter pudding and your Christmas pudding that went out of the window, your gourmets are going to follow you like mad. But anyway, we come back to Anona Wynne. And here's a subject close to anybody's heart. And Nona, we'd like you to talk for just a minute, if you can, on paying a visit to the dentist, starting now.
Dentists are really...
Lucy Bartlett, you challenge.
I thought that was a hesitation.
I quite agree. Lucy Bartlett, on paying a visit to the dentist, starting now.
Paying a visit to the dentist is about the nastiest thing that anybody could do. And the awful thing is that nobody does it voluntarily. First of all, you have to sit for hours.
Anona Wynne.
Hesitation.
You've got it back again. Paying a visit to the dentist, starting now.
When you go to the dentist, you really should remember that all dentists at heart are very kindly people. They lie awake at night worrying about the terror they arouse in the bosoms of men, women, and children. They also...
Lucy Bartlett.
Actually, it was me. But still...
well, Lucy Bartlett's little light came up then.
Oh, very nice.
Have you... Would you like to press your little buzzer there and see if your light comes up? That is the Derek Nimmo light. That was fine. So you actually challenged you, Derek?
You
didn't press yours.
That's mine too.
You pressed yours as well. Then, Lucy, you got in first, because whoever presses first automatically cuts out the others. Lucy, why did you challenge?
I've really almost forgotten. I think it was deviation.
You were quite right. It was deviation. You've got paying a visit back to the dentist. I'm paying a visit to the dentist. Back with you, starting now.
You sit in a waiting room, trembling. The nurse comes in. She says, "Miss Bartlett, it's now your turn." You walk into his surgery. You sit...
Clement Freud.
Into. Repetition.
No, I think they were being unkind. Lucy, you've got a point, and you have 27 seconds left. I'm paying a visit to the dentist, starting now.
You shake the dentist's hand rather nervously. He says, "Take a seat, Miss Bartlett." You do. A nurse comes along and straps you into the seat. She throttles you.
Derek Nimmo.
Well, deviation, really. You see, she's talking about you, and you means me, and I can't be Lucy Bartlett.
Extremely ingenious, and it's given a point to Lucy Bartlett. Will you carry on, Lucy? Talking now.
The dentist then shines a light into your mouth and says, "Shut your eyes, Miss Bartlett. It would be better than keeping them open." He then pulls...
Derek Nimmo.
I still challenge on exactly the same score. Does she mean Nicholas Parsons' name is Lucy Bartlett?
You're being even more ingenious, but you're only giving, because the subject is on paying a visit to the dentist. And obviously it must be the dentist that you usually go to. And if Lucy Bartlett's talking, it must be Lucy Bartlett she's talking about. So, Lucy Bartlett, you've another point. You have 12 seconds and the same subject, starting now.
I, Lucy Bartlett, shut my eyes. Then a drill...
Clement Freud.
Milking the audience.
And justified on this occasion. With another point, would you carry on, Lucy, starting now?
The drill starts. It's a terrible noise, the dentist's drill is.
Nona Wynne.
2 drills. One's enough.
Very good, but doesn't fit into the game. And so you still have another point, and you have 3 seconds left on paying a visit to the dentist, starting now.
My tooth is penetrated. Blood.
Well, I admire you, Lucy. I mean, I think the others tried to harry you on that, and you weren't to be put off, and you carried on gamefully, and you put yourself in a commanding lead with 14 points, followed by Nona Wynne with 8, Clement Freud with 6, and Derek Nimmo with 3. Here's a lovely subject for you to try and win some points back with Derek. What Gladstone said in 1894, starting now.
The first thing that Mr. Gladstone said in 1894 was a very happy new year to you all. He then said, "Thank you very much for your good wishes." The following morning he said, "Please could I have some toast and butter and a little marmalade?" And later on that day he said, "A tissue." He had a cold. Then he went to bed that night with "Farewell, my friends." He also said about Mr. Disraeli, "His doctrine is false, but the man is even falser than his doctrine." He had said that a little early, but he repeated it in 1894. He was at the height of his powers. I remember hearing him in the House of Commons that year, speaking of Mr. Disraeli, and he said, "It is nice to be standing here, wishing you a happy new year." It was only January the 3rd still. He also said, "How lovely it is to see Queen Victoria riding down the Mall on a big white horse with 2 peacocks."
I've never heard such a lot of old deviation all my life. But as you manage to speak without interruption for 60 seconds, you gain an extra point, Derek, and you now have 5, but you're not quite in the lead yet. Lucy Bartlett, it's your turn to begin. Would you like to talk, please, for just a minute? Yes, this is a thing for any young girl to think about and explain to us, too. Things that make me blush, starting now.
There are so many things that make me blush, it's very hard to start. Yesterday...
And Nona Wynne.
Hesitation.
I was drawing breath.
It was so minimal, I have to always swing it one way. I'm still with Lucy on this one. No, I don't think you hesitate enough to be penalised. So carry on, Lucy, starting now.
For instance, yesterday I saw 2 drunk old ladies fighting in the street. I blushed. I then got on a train and a religious maniac started preaching at me. I blushed. 2 days ago.
Anona Wynne.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes, that time. All right, Anona. Things that make me blush, Anona, starting now.
Things that make me blush are people who say that they've...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. Derek Nimmo. Things that make me blush now.
When I am standing in Lucy Bartlett's bedroom and she takes her hair off and I find that she's bald underneath, I invariably blush. When she fumbles in her undergarments and locks things which she finds inside, I always blush. When I see Mr. Clement
Freud.
Bumbling.
Bumbling. It's not one of the rules of the game. Derek Nimmo, you've got another point, and you have 14 seconds left for things that make me blush. Now.
If I find myself standing outside Clement Freud's house, and out through the window comes whistling a Christmas pudding and several decayed mince pies and a jug of cream, together with several bread and butter puddings containing far too much...
Repetition, I've said all that.
But you didn't say it on this...
It made me blush, nevertheless.
And you didn't say it on this subject, so Derek Nimmo has another point, and he has 3 seconds left for the things that make me blush, starting now.
Sarsaparilla, gooseberries, and...
Clement Freud, it's your turn to start, and perhaps you can redress the situation for yourself. Ah, here's a good subject for you as well. Beauty competitions, starting now.
Beauty competitions are held in theatres or on beaches in order to determine which of a number of selected contestants shall receive a small prize or some equal honour, like being kissed by Derek Nimmo. People who go in...
Derek Nimmo.
He hesitated after I kissed her.
I must say it would make anybody hesitate, but it was justified, Derek, so you have beauty competitions starting now.
I once went to judge a beauty competition in the north of England, and I was met by the Lord Mayor, who said, we've got all the queens in the next room. And I'm very worried about them because we found out that one of the queens is pregnant. He said, I've got a district nurse in with them now, going over them, and as soon as we find out which one is pregnant, we'll let you know. And we put a cross by her name. And inevitably, they gave me the piece of paper with the list of names on, and the prettiest one had the cross. Oh.
Hesitation. With the...
Well, I think it was more his natural impediment this time. I'm going to be kind to him and let him carry on with his beauty competitions. Derek Nimmo, starting now.
I would love to judge a beauty queen competition in which Clement Freud took part. To see him standing...
Deviation.
I quite agree. I could never see you in a beauty queen competition. Take it over, Clement Freud, with 7 seconds left, starting now.
So the Lord Mayor said, I will put a cross against whichever of these beauty queens happens to be pregnant.
My goodness me, how devious can we get? Fine, let's have the score again. Lucy Bartlett still in the lead with 15, Derek Nimmo 12, Anona Wynne 9, and Clement Freud 8. Anona Wynne, it's your turn to start. And this time we're going to have a penalty. You have to think very carefully. Throughout this game, if you use the word the others can challenge and gain a point. Now, this is interesting because last time we did this, sometimes people got away with it and nobody spotted it. Anyway, the subject is Australia, Anona, and the word you mustn't say is and the time starts now.
Australia has been called one...
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
You're quite right. Australia, without saying starting now. Starting now?
Australia has often been called all sorts of names. There are a number of countries in Australia known as New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia.
No, Wynne.
Hesitation.
No, I think he'd measured his delivery rather cleverly so that it went on the same thing. So we're still with you, Clement. Plenty of time left still. Carry on now.
People in Australia do tend to talk very slowly. When I was in Australia and said, tell me what countries you have in Australia, a man replied, New South Wales, Victoria...
No, Wynne. Repetition, you're right. The subject's back with you, Anona. Australia. Don't mention the word and start now.
I happen to come from a state which has been named by Clement Freud a very charming state. There are others.
Derek Nimmo. Gained you a point. Carry on, Derek Nimmo, with the subject. 23 seconds left, starting now.
How lovely it must be at this time of the year.
The year.
Yes, exactly.
Fine. Lucy, will you carry on? 18 seconds left. Australia, don't say the word the, starting now.
I know nothing at all about Australia.
Derek Nimmo.
How can she talk about deviation?
She can still try in this game, and she has another point, Lucy, and you have 14 seconds left, starting now.
I have never been there, and I never want to go there.
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
Hesitation is right. You've got a point this time, with 5 seconds left, starting now.
Australia played yesterday.
Lucy Bartlett.
Hesitation yourself.
Hesitation yourself?
Hesitation yourself.
You said it to me as I opened my mouth, so I thought I'd say it back.
Well done. Well, that's what we want in this show. Someone who's got some spirit to stand up to these two experienced men here. But I'm afraid all you do is give Clement Freud another point. But well tried, anyway. The subject is Australia. You mustn't mention the word the, and you start now.
Australia played yesterday.
And that is all we have time for. And it is very interesting because for the first time, the ladies have overtaken the men in this game. Lucy Bartlett is a clear winner, so I'm sure you want to applaud her for that. Clement Freud is second. Third comes a no win equal with Derek Nimmo. Goodbye from us all.
Chairman of Just a Minute was Sir Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hatch.